Good morning and welcome to today's lesson. My name is Ebenezer and I'll be the one to lead you through this particular lesson. In this lesson, I'm going to help you write or teach you how to write a table question essay in an academic writing tax 1. All right. One thing you need to know is that for you to write any kind of essay, you have to first plan. And in planning, you need to analyze the question and then look out for the main features in the graph. Okay, so analyzing the question means that you are trying to get more information. You want to understand the question that you are actually looking out for, or you have been told to work on. Okay, so you are just looking at every part of the question in order to understand it. And the second thing after doing that is to look out for the main features within the graph in order to also help you summarize, report, and also compare as it has been asked for you to do. So I want you to start by highlighting on the important steps with the analyzing or analysis and also looking for the main features. They are very important that you learn how to do it in your planning stage properly if you want to actually get a high scoring essay. So this is very important. One thing is that a lot of students want to dive into the question straightforward. They want to just work on the question straightforward, but it's not very good step for you to take. You have to first of all understand the question, look out for the main ideas before you go on to write your essay. So that's a very good stage for you to plan before you start to write. So in this particular lesson, we are going to work through the 5 stages or the stages that we're going through step by step, and we will answer all of them with this practice question. So this practice question is a table. So it said that the tables below give information about sales of fair trade labeled coffee, fair trade labeled coffee and bananas in 1999 and 2004 in 5 European countries, and that we have to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So this is the question given to us, and that is what we are going to do. So as we stated, your first step is to analyze the question and look out for the main idea. So before you start with the question, you have to know that we mostly practice using the 4 paragraph system. Okay, so you have to know how to organize the paragraph in order to help you write a very good essay. So let's look at the 4 paragraph system. So your essay should have a 4 paragraph system. Thus, in the first paragraph, there should be an introduction. So the introduction is when you are telling the audience what this whole graph and picture is about. So you rewrite it in your own words, explain it in a way that they will understand, but you don't have to copy the information here. You have to rewrite everything in your own words. That's what we call paraphrasing. The second paragraph will be the overview, where you summarize all your details into about 2 or 3 sentences. And then in the third and fourth paragraph, which will also entail the details of your main features that you actually came up within the overview. So that is how you go about it. So now that we have everything that we need, then we'll begin planning and writing our IELTS table chart essay, okay, using this practice question. So our first step is to analyze the question, and that's what we are going to do. So the format of every IELTS question is similar. Okay, you have the first question, which actually talks about the information on the graph, the second part of the line, which is also talking about what you have to do, and the third part, which is the picture itself. So we have to just read the sentence and also understand it. Remember that, okay, let's read the first sentence. So the first sentence states that the tables, so we know that tables because it's dealing with 2 different kind of tables here. Okay, so first one, second one. So it the tables below give information about sales of fair trade labeled coffee, fair trade labeled coffee and bananas in 1999 and 2004 in 5 European countries. So these tables is about the sales, all right, the sales that they made in a fair trade label on a fair trade labeled coffee and banana. Okay, so these two different products, right? The sales that they made in a fair trade labeled coffee and banana in 1999, which is the date, the two different years that they made them, 1999 and 2004, in 5 European countries. All right, so 5 European countries in 1999, 2004. We are talking about the sales that they made um, on a fair trade labeled coffee and banana. All right, so that is the understanding of what we did. And he said we should summarize that information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. For you to analyze any kind of question and to fairly understand it, have the full information on it, you need to use some of these questions that I am asking here. Okay, so if you have been following me for a long time, you know that we mostly use these questions. And if you have been going through our lessons, these questions are very important that you need to ask yourself. So for you to make those analysis, first of all, we ask that what is this graph, or what graph is being displayed here? And we know that there is a table, and actually we have two tables here. Okay, so the graph displayed here is a table, so we just know that it's a table. Is there any topic on them? All right, so let's check if there is any topic. So this is the question, but we have the topic here. So the topic is the one on the table. So the topic states that is the sales of fair trade labeled coffee and bananas in 1999 and in 2004. Okay, so the topic is about the sales of fair trade labeled coffee and bananas in 1999 and 2004. All right, so that is the topic on it. So what is this thing about? What is the whole question about? All right, so the question, we can read the question. It states that is about the information on the sales of fair trade labeled coffee and banana in 1999 and 2004 in 5 European countries. Okay, so it's about the fair trade labeled coffee sales. All right, so what does it mean by a fair trade labeled coffee sale? As you come down here, you can see there has been an asterisk here, okay, showing us what a fair trade is. And he said a fair trade is a category of product for which farmers from developing countries have been paid an officially agreed price. Okay, so the category of product for which farmers from um, developing countries have been paid an officially agreed price. So if they come on the trade center, there is a price that have been settled for them, and everybody understand that this is the price that we pay for. And then when we are going on, maybe coffee for 1 kilogram will cost this amount, and that is what they do on that trade. So everybody understands it. Okay, so that is those kind of products. So we have these two products, coffee and banana, which have been labeled as a fair trade labeled product. Okay, so they are fair trade labeled products. So now we understand that these are just products that are being sold on the world market. Okay, and these 5 countries actually buy those things from the developing countries, the farmers from developing countries. Okay, so we now have that understanding on it. So sometimes you have to look at all this extra information in order to get the fair understanding on what is being spoken here. And what are the, or who here refers to the variables involved, right? So what are the variables involved? And here we have two major variables here. We have the first one to be coffee and the second one to be banana. So those are the two major products we are dealing here: coffee sales and banana sales. But apart from that, yeah, so coffee sales and banana sales, that those are the two major things we are dealing here. Okay, where 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 that is, where is this particular information taken from, or where was this research done? Okay, and we know that they are from 5 European countries, namely the UK, Switzerland, Denmark, Belgium, and Sweden. So these are the 5 countries that were being labeled here. These questions are very important. When you ask yourself these questions, it opens your mind for you to know all that is about the question. Okay, or all is about the graph, you'll be able to get all the understanding on it. So we know the graph display, we know the topic, we understand what is involved, we know who are involved, which is the variables that are being displayed here, and we know where this information was taken from. And those are the 5 countries involved here, and when, at what time. Okay, so we have 2 time periods here. We have 1999 and 2004. So in 2 different time periods. Okay, 1999 and 2004. Okay, so as you can see here, 1999, 2004. So category for 1999, category for 2004. Now, let's go on to other information. So when you are dealing with a table, there are some other informations you can ask yourself aside these what, who, where, and when. Okay, you need to ask yourself the information on the column. So if you take the the column is the vertical part of it. Okay, so this side. So what is the information here? So we know that this information is about the countries. So this side refers to the countries. Okay, so we have the UK, Switzerland, Denmark, Belgium, and Sweden here on this side. Okay, and if you take the row, the row refers to the horizontal. So the horizontal, we have that of the 2 years. So we have 1999 and then the 2004 column. So 1999, 2004 column. And that of the vertical is about the coffee, banana, and then the 5 countries that we have been talking about. So these are the information we have here. And then it's asking the unit of measurement is also important. The unit of measurement, and through here we have a unit of measurement here, which is millions of euros. So if you see 1.5 here is 1.5 million euros. 1.5 million euros. If you see 3 here, 3 refers to 3 million euros. Okay, so Switzerland sold 3 million euros or bought 3 million euros of coffee. Okay, so they bought the coffee amounting 3 million euros. Denmark bought a coffee amounting 1.8 million euros in 1999 alone. So now you understand that the unit of measurement is also important. All right, now that we have been able to analyze the question, we have understood everything. One thing is that when you fully understand the question, it helps you to write a very good introduction. Okay, because you now have a fair idea, you know what the question is about, and you know the very good vocabularies and grammar you are going to use. Because if it's about money, then it tells you the worth. It tells you the worth of those products in that particular year, and the other year too, the worth of them. Okay, so if the value increased or the value decreased or the amount they bought increased or decreased, you will know. Okay, so this kind of information will help you to know the correct word that you need to use, and also the right grammar that you need to use. So let's go on to the second step. The second step here is to look for the major features or the main features in the graph. Right, so the second step that you need to take when you are actually writing or planning for your essay is to look for the main features. When we talk about main features, is the obvious part of the graph. Okay, the part of the graph that you want the people to know. Okay, so those are the main features, and it's very important because the question tells you to summarize the information. That is what you need to do. Generally, this question has a lot of things to talk about, but they are not expecting to say every single thing. So they are telling you to summarize that information. So you are summarizing the information, the total information here. And what you need to do in the summary is that you have to select the features and report on them and make comparison. Okay, so in the main features, what you need to do is that you have to first select the main features in the graph, then you report or describe it in detail, and then you make comparisons, you compare them. And that is totally, those 3 is what we call that you are summarizing the whole features. Okay, you are summarizing the information within that. So that is what they expect you to do though. So they don't want you to just tell them every single thing in the graph. Like UK 1999 was 1.5, and then in 2004 was 20. Switzerland 1999 3, 2004, 6. That is not what they want you to do. They want you to capture the whole picture of the graph in order to understand, to give us the overall picture, and also give us the details in that particular picture. Okay, so that's what they are expecting you to do, and that's what they call summarizing the information. Okay, so we are looking for the main features in the graph. And before you look for the main features, there is one important thing you need to ask yourself first before you go on. The reason is that will help you to know the right questions to ask in the graph to help you get your main features. So the first question you need to ask yourself is that what is the category of question I'm dealing with in terms of timeline? What is the category of question I'm dealing with in terms of timeline? So under this is either the question was taken between two timelines or within one particular timeline, and with that we might get either a static graph or dynamic graph. If you don't have much idea on dynamic or static graph, go back to our previous lessons where we dealt with the dynamic and static graph in looking for main features. Okay, so when you go to the video that talks about looking for main features, you find more understanding on it. But we have to find out whether this particular question is a dynamic or static graph depending on the timeline. We said that if it is bordered between two timelines, it's a dynamic graph, and if it's bordered between one timeline, or sorry, if it is actually in a particular timeline or one timeline, or there is no time at all, then that means that we are dealing with a static graph. So let's read the question. The question states that the tables below give information about the sales of fair trade labeled coffee in 1999 and 2004. So this one talks about two different timelines that happened. We are comparing 1999 to 2004 sales. So that is two different timelines. And because of that, we can deduce and say that this question is a dynamic graph. So we know that this chart is a dynamic one. Okay, so this is a dynamic graph, and because it's a dynamic graph, then we have to ask ourselves important questions when we are dealing with dynamic graphs. So now that we are aware that this question is a dynamic graph, we have to look for the main features within it. And for you to find main features for dynamic graph, these are the questions you should ask yourself. How is the graph behaving in general? Okay, so I know that this is a table chart, right? And somebody would say that let's just look into it and see. But if you look at table chart, you have to create it in a way that it's very simple for you to deduce all the information in it. Okay, so how do you get the total information on it? By using these questions, and that will be simple. Just categorize them under dynamic and static and ask the right question for you to get the major features that you need. So the thing is, the first question we ask ourselves, we know it's a dynamic. We don't have to just look through. If you picture the thing like this, you will be very much confused. Okay, so just use your questions to get your answers. Okay, so first of all, the first question is how is the graph behaving in general? Okay, and because it's a dynamic graph, we can just look at it and answer. So let's go to UK. When we take the coffee trade itself, UK 1.520, so we know that the sales actually went up. Switzerland 3 to 6, it also went up. Denmark 1.8 to 2, show that it also went up. Belgium 1 to 1.7, it also went up, the sales went up. Sweden 0.8 to 1, so the total sales also went up. So throughout the whole of the coffee trade in all the countries, we can see that the trade level or the amount they spent to buy coffee on the world trade market increased for all the countries mentioned. So among the 5 countries, they all increased when it comes to the coffee trade. So that is the behavior for the coffee. Let's go to the banana. What happened to the banana? UK 15 to 47, and that is a very wide number. And also Switzerland from 1 to 5.5, Belgium 0 to 4, So we can also see that it's still increasing. But when we take Sweden, 1.8 to 1. So Sweden reduced in the amount they spent to buy banana on the market, the world market in 2004. And also Denmark also from 2 to 0.9 shows also a decrease in the amount they also spent to buy banana in or on the world market in 2004. So the aside Sweden and Denmark, all the other countries saw an increasing amount, or they actually increased in the total amount they spend to buy either coffee or banana. Okay, so we can see that in general, that is how the behavior of the graph is. But if you don't ask these questions and go through it this way, you will find yourself in trouble. You might find it that very difficult, but it's not. So you can see that these questions that we ask will now help us to get all the answers that we need. So we know that the general behavior of the graph is that most of these countries saw an increasing number of, or an increasing amount in their trade, or they spend a lot to buy these coffee and banana. All right, so most of them. We won't say all, because we know that Denmark and Sweden saw a decrease, but we know that the others, which is most, 3 out of 5, is actually a lot. Individually, how is each of the variables behaving? So if you take coffee, from what we display, we know that all of them saw an increasing trade amount, and also in banana we saw that 3 out of 5 also saw an increasing amount. Okay, so that is how the behavior is. Is there any exceptional variable? So looking at what we did now, it's very clear for you to know the exception. All right, which one is actually different. So when we take exception, we mean the one that stands out, and we know that among the 5 countries, it's only Sweden and Denmark. When it comes to banana trade, they are those that stood out. Okay, so when it comes to the banana trade, Sweden and Denmark stood out as the only 2 countries which reduced in the total amount of amount they spend to buy banana on the world market. Okay, and which of the variables are common? We can say UK, Switzerland, and Belgium are common in all trade. They all saw an increasing amount of or they increase in their total amount of trade. Okay, and finally we can look at the overall highest and lowest. Okay, so if you take the total, we can see we have 1.520 here, 3, 6, so they are all low. But if you take UK in banana trade, 1999, it was the highest trade. All right, so the highest, they spent a lot of money to buy. All right, and also in 2004 they also spent a lot of money to buy, so they bought it at a very high amount, or they spent the total amount of money to buy this particular product, which is the banana. Okay, so they spent a lot of money to buy banana, right? As you can see, 1999 they spent 15 million, and that was the highest among all the trade. Okay, in 1999, right, we have 1.53, 1.8. So in total in 1999, you can see that UK spent what the country that spent a lot. All right, and when it comes to 2004, they are the same country that also spent a lot in the sales of banana, and even it surpassed all the other trade when it comes to comparing to coffee. So we can see that coffee, the highest amount they spent was 20, but they spent 47 million to buy banana. Okay, so that is the general thing we are seeing here. All right, so let's put all these answers in the question, and then we can know what we have done so far. All right, so these are the answers that we got so far. First of all, we can see that the first question was, how is the graph behaving as a whole or in general? And we deduced that the total sales of both products, which is the coffee and banana, increased in all the countries. It increased in almost all. So that is very important. The total sales of products of total sales of both products increased in almost all the countries, right, by the end of the year or by the end of the period, right? So the total sales of both products increased in almost all the countries by the end of the period. Okay, so we can see all of them increased except for Sweden and Denmark. That's why we said almost all. All right, so the second question is, individually, how is each of the variable behaving? So we know that in coffee, all the sales increased. All right, so the sales increased in all the countries. Banana, sales increased in 3 countries and fell in 2 of them. All right, so we have that answer to there, and I believe out of what we have studied, you understand. The third one is there any exceptional variable? And that is what we saw from Sweden and Denmark. So we just write our answer. Sweden and Denmark were the only countries or the only 2 countries which recorded a drop in the amount of banana sales in 2004. See, so they were the only 2 countries that recorded a drop in the total amount sold in 2004. And also, if we take the next question, is about which of the variables are common, and we know that all the countries in total all countries in total sales of coffee were actually rising, so all of them were common. So when we take coffee, all of them increased. Even in banana, we saw that most of them increased, but the most common variables is that of the coffee. They all increased in sales. All right, so all the countries in who actually bought the coffee actually increased. They increased in the amount they used. Okay, and also the highest and the lowest point. We can see that sales of banana in UK recorded the highest in both years. All right, so sales of banana in the UK recorded the highest in both years. So now we've been able to get all these points down, and we'll be using this to write down our 2 main features. You can get maybe about 3 of them, but because we just have coffee and banana, we can just get 2 major features out of this, and we use that one. So we can group them under coffee and banana, or depending on what we think. We know we have got a lot. We've got increase in all, just 3, and 2 of them we've got this to be the only countries, and this is very important here. We have to just talk about. Okay, so we can get 2 major features out of this. So let's write down our main features. We can get a lot of key features from all these questions. Okay, based on the question that we have just written down, and then the answers that we've written down here, we can get a lot of key features from them. But when you are writing your key features, okay, you have to make sure that you summarize everything together, and then you'll be able to get a very good overview. So I told you that when you're writing the overview, it has to cover the major variables that you are using, like coffee and banana. Need to cover it. Okay, so, and then you can see we have UK, Switzerland, Denmark, Belgium, Sweden. So you have to make sure that it covers them, but you don't have to write every net bit of it, like from 1.5 to 20. Those are not necessary. You have to just write the major thing that you see in it. So we can get a lot of key features from this, but out of what we have written, I'm just going to summarize all of them under 2 major features which we are going to use here in our essay. So the first one is that we can see that the sales of coffee, so I picked the coffee first. So the sales of coffee increased in all the countries, and that is true. That is one of the major things in there. All the countries saw a very massive increase, or an increase in their sales when it comes to coffee. All right, so that is the major thing. But when it comes to banana sales, the banana sales actually dropped in Sweden and Denmark. Is it true? Yes. So Sweden here 1.8 to 1, and Denmark 2 to 0.9. Okay, so banana sales dropped in Sweden and Denmark despite seeing an increase, or despite seeing a rise in the other 3 countries. So you can see I still brought in the 3 countries and compared them to the one that is actually dropping. So despite the rise in those three countries, banana actually saw a drop in sales when it comes to Sweden and Denmark. So now we have two major key features that we're going to use, and this is what we are going to both use in our essay, in our overview, and then in major features when we are writing the details. So the key feature that we have selected will be the starting point for our essay, and then we will use them. We'll just add more details to them later. We have to know that we just need to write 150 words, and we are going to use about 20 minutes to finish with this writing. So we don't have to include a lot of details. Okay, so those major things, that's why I said that you should summarize the information. So you are using some vocabulary, you are using some grammar, you are comparing some things. Okay, and then you are dealing with the major features, still bringing in the key words, and then you're also supporting them with figures. Okay, that is what we are going to do now. So we are now ready to write our essay, but we have to just remember that our writing will be in 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph will be the introduction, second paragraph will be the main features overview, and then the third paragraph will be our first main feature, and fourth paragraph will be the second main feature. So let's go on to write our introduction now. So writing the introduction is just for you to rewrite what you are seeing or what you have been asked to do in your own words. Okay, so what we need to do is that we have to just paraphrase the question given to us, and the question states here that the tables below give information about the sales of fair trade labeled coffee and bananas in 1999-2004 in 5 European countries. Okay, so we now understand what a fair trade labeled coffee is. So those are the products that have been bought by other countries from farmers who are from the developing countries, so at a fair price. Okay, so we are just, the question is about what those countries actually spent, or the amount they have spent to buy those kind of product in 1999 2004. So that understanding, we just have to use it and write our essay. So this will be the answer for our essay. The tables display, the tables, because it's two different tables, and display, you can see the subject verb agreement. Okay, so the tables display how much fair trade labeled coffee and bananas. If you don't know, you cannot change this word fair trade labeled. Okay, if you don't have to change every single thing that you see in there. All right, so if it is fair trade labeled coffee and banana, okay, keep it. Okay, you can't change coffee and banana to a different word, right? So don't go and change every single word that you need is in it in order to change the whole idea. All right, so keep the major things that are in it, the most important facts that are in it, keep it. All right, so that the real idea of the question will still be kept. But there are some words that you can change, like give, I use the word display. Okay, about the sales of coffee, and I said how much, so how much they spent to buy. Okay, so the tables display how much fair trade label coffee and bananas were bought in 1999-2004 in 5 countries of Europe. So 5 European countries, 5 countries of Europe. Now, one thing I should tell you here is that sometimes I could choose to just list those countries, like in UK, Switzerland, Denmark, Belgium, and Sweden. Okay, but I always give you this caution: when your variables that you are using is more than 3, don't list them. So don't do it this way. Don't list UK, Switzerland, Denmark, Belgium, Sweden in the introduction, because it's more than, if it was like maybe UK and Switzerland 2, it's fine. You can just say that the tables display how much fair trade labeled coffee and bananas were bought in 1999 and 2004 in UK and Switzerland. It's fine. Okay, just 2 is okay. Even if it's 3, is okay. UK, Switzerland, and Denmark is okay. But when it's more than 3, don't list them. Just use the figure like 5 countries or 5 places or different places, okay, to summarize everything together. So don't write the tables display how much fair trade coffee and bananas were bought in 1999 in UK, Switzerland, Denmark, Belgium, and don't do that. As stated, when it's more than three, don't list everything. Just combine them together as one unit. Okay, so that is one particular thing I'll tell you here. So this order we write for the introduction is well labeled, everything is understood. So let's move on to the next step, which will be writing our overview. So the overview is our second body paragraph. Okay, so our second paragraph is actually the overview. The first paragraph for the introduction, the second paragraph now is the overview. And then when you are writing the overview, you are only reporting on the main features that you can see within the table. Okay, so you're only giving the general information that you saw in the table. At the end of the day, when you went for that research, what did you see generally in that particular table? So you should only make a clear comparison when you see them, and also you should also just talk about it in general. Don't add any detail in it. All right, don't write any details in it. Don't go and write figures and facts in your overview. So out of the main features, we are just going to pick those three main features and use them to write the overview. So we saw two main features from our planning. We saw that the sales of coffee increased in all the countries, and also banana sales dropped in Sweden and Denmark despite seeing a rise in other three countries. All right, so from these two listed, we had this as an overview. First of all, when you are beginning an overview, start with a linking word. Okay, start with a word that will show that you are giving a general statement. So you can start with a word like in summary or overall or something of that sort. So you will start with that word, with the word overall. So overall, sales of coffee climbed in all 5 countries. So climb means that it went up. So the sales of coffee climbed in all 5 countries. Full stop. And then banana sales dropped in Sweden and Denmark despite seeing a rise in the other 3 countries. Okay, so what we do is that we just formed an idea. So we just formed the two these ideas, which is the two features. We just formed 2 or 3 sentences in that particular idea. So right, we just stated the information. Right, so that's what you need to do when you are writing an overview. What you need to do is that you have to form the ideas or group the ideas into 2 or 3 sentences and write them as an overview. Okay, and then you don't have to use any elaborated or complicated grammar or vocabulary when you are writing. Just use the appropriate word and correct verb tenses when you are writing this overview. So this is the overview that we got. Overall, sales of coffee climbed in all 5 countries. Banana sales dropped in Sweden and Denmark despite seeing a rise in the other 3 countries. So after writing your overview, we now move on to write our major details. Also, we deal with the first detail paragraph. All right, so we are now going to write our major feature, our first major feature, and this time we're going to concentrate on the first variable, which is our banana. So we're going to concentrate on banana. I see that main feature 2 was about banana, but I'm using that one to start my essay. It doesn't matter. So we saw that banana sales dropped in Sweden and Denmark despite seeing a rise in the other 3 countries. So in the major features, in the major detail or the main detail, we are going to now explain what we said. Okay, so let's start. First of all, we stated that UK bought far more bananas than any other countries in both years. Okay, so if you take UK here 15 and then 47, and if you compare to the other country, you can see that they bought more bananas than any other country. If you remember in our planning, we got that answer in it. So it does not matter you don't have to throw away those kind of answers. They are important. You'll be using them. So make sure that you keep them. You can group those answers under one umbrella. So when it comes to banana, UK bought far more bananas under any of the countries than any of the countries in both years, with sales rising significantly from 15. So we've now proven it with figures 15 to 47 million euros. Banana sales in Switzerland and Belgium also went up to 5.5 and 4 million. So 5.5 here and 4 million respectively. Okay, so that means that Switzerland is 5.5 and Belgium is 4. But we did not just write 4 million euros, because that is the unit of measurement there. Unlike the above, so we've now taken off those three. Unlike the above, sales in Sweden and Denmark showed a decline to 1 and 0.9 million euros respectively in 2004. So now it's very clear. When you read it, you know that we've compared the three unlike the above. So we've separated all those three from the last one, the last two, which has actually proven our point here that banana sales dropped in Sweden and Denmark despite the three, despite seeing a rise in the other three countries. So when you are writing your major details, your facts, your figures, you are comparing, you are reporting, you are writing details, you are also making sure that you are summarizing some of these things. So this is how our first main paragraph will look like. Let's go on to the second detail, then we end our essay. All right, so the last part of our essay will be the detail paragraph 2. Okay, so this will be the last step of our essay, and at this point we are just going to talk about the second body paragraph, where we stated that the sales of coffee increased in all the countries. So we stated that the sales of coffee actually increased in all countries. So we are going to use that to also write our essay. Right, so let's look at it in detail now. So in respect to coffee sales, so now it will direct the examiner's mindset to coffee. He knows that you're going to talk about coffee. So in respect to coffee sales, only 1.5 million euros was bought in the UK in 1999. So 1.5 million goes here. You see 1.5 million, okay? However, this country increased its sale dramatically to 20 million euros in 2004, okay, which was the highest across the 5 countries that year. So if you look at 2004, in 2004 coffee sales, you can see that UK bought the highest in 2004. Okay, so that was the highest across the 5 countries that year. Although Switzerland was the biggest coffee buyer in 1999. So if you check 1999 coffee buyers, 3 for Switzerland, highest among all of them. So when you are looking at it, you can just make all these comparisons. Look at the highest, the lowest, everything has to be checked. You have to make sure that you are writing a very good essay. Switzerland was the biggest coffee buyer in 1999 with 3 million euros of sales. This figure doubled to 6 million euros in 2004. So if you take Switzerland, 1999 it was 3, but 2004 became 6, so which is a double. So although Switzerland was the biggest coffee buyer in 1999 with 3 million euros of sales, this figure doubled to 6 million euros in 2004. All right, so that is for Switzerland. So UK saw a very high increase, so a dramatic increase, and then the sales of Switzerland when it comes to coffee also doubled. So these are some words you can use: double, triple. You can also look at that. Okay, Denmark, Belgium, and Sweden. Now we take the 3 together. Denmark, Belgium, and Sweden also bought more coffee in 2004, but their increases were slight. That is, you can see 2, 1.7, and 1 million euros respectively. So you can see that you don't have to talk about every single one of them, but you can put in collective manner and also use some of these words and grammar which are very important in tax 1, like increase, double, most. All these things need to be studied. These vocabularies need to be, and you just fuse them in to make your writing very nice. All right, so now that we've written down our 4 paragraphs, let's put it together and then look at how it looks like. So this is our full essay with 192 words. Okay, so we are going to read it out. Remember, this is our question. Okay, so the tables display how much fair trade labeled coffee and bananas were bought in 1999 and 2004 in 5 countries in Europe. Overall, sales of coffee climbed in all 5 countries. Banana sales dropped in Sweden and Denmark, despite seeing a rise in other 3 countries. UK bought far more bananas than any other countries in both years, with sales rising significantly from 15 to 47 million euros. Banana sales in the Switzerland and Belgium also went up to 5.5 and 4 million euros respectively. Unlike the above, sales in Sweden and Denmark showed a decline to 1 and 0.9 million euros respectively in 2004. In respect to coffee sales, only 1.5 million euros was bought in the UK in 1999. However, this country increased its sales dramatically to 20 million euros in 2004, which was the highest across the 5 countries that year. Although Switzerland was the biggest coffee buyer in 1999 with 3 million euros of sales, this figure doubled to 6 million euros in 2004. Denmark, Belgium, and Sweden also bought more coffee in 2004, but their increases were slight to 2, 1.7, and 1 million euros respectively. So, I believe you now understand how to write a table question, and what I need from you is that you go over this particular lesson over and over again, and then when you understand it, you write other essays also in the table. One thing you should learn is that this sample question is just there for you to have a view of how to write a table, okay? But your figures that you get, all that you need to learn, you have to get it yourself. You have to sit down and write a lot of questions, okay, so that you have a fair understanding of it. Okay, I'll meet you in our next lesson. Have a blessed day. Bye.